I still remember the thick air of that afternoon, clinging to the walls of the school gym like fog. It was supposed to be a day of possibility, a day to mark the end of one kind of life and the trembly beginning of another. My palms were still wet as I climbed onto the little wooden stage. Out there in the audience, rows of parents, men in crisp shirts from Chiato with proper jobs, mothers fanning themselves, waited with faces somewhere between proud, bored, and exhausted. Sunlight leaked through the high windows, making the banners glow blue and white above us. I clutched my typed speech with both hands. When I looked up, I caught my mother's eyes, wide, anxious, telling me, "Don't embarrass us." My uncle leaned forward, eyebrows arched. Across the aisle, a cluster of my classmates smirked silently, the corners of their mouths twitching. Maybe I should have been nervous for my own sake, but most of all I dreaded being a burden, another failure they'd eagerly tell the neighbors about while shelling favas on the terrace. But this was my moment. "I want to talk about patterns," I began, voice steadier than I felt, "about the language beneath the noise, the stories that numbers tell." A rustle of confusion spread. Someone snorted. Ignoring them, I pressed on. Lisbon reveals its heartbeat in unexpected ways. Tram schedules mapped against ocean tides, lights flickering in patterns across Alfama as the Fado bars open and close. A laugh burst from the back. "There he goes, still talking to computers," a cousin hissed. I flushed, but forced the next words out, desperate. "I want to become a data artist. I want to turn streams of raw information into colors and movement, make the invisible city visible." That was as far as I got. The deputy principal, always nervous, stepped forward as if to guide me off the stage. The applause that followed was perfunctory, quick, embarrassed. I heard my uncle's bark of mockery over the shuffling feet. "A data artist?" he crowed to my mother. "What's next? A professional dreamer?" Later, with my diploma pressed against my chest like a shield, my aunt's words bit more than I expected. "Miguel," she said, "your cousin already has a job real estate. Maybe you could help him?" These art things, who needs them? I didn't answer. For the rest of the day, I floated through the parties and well-wishes, never quite landing anywhere, my dream battered but burning hotter inside my ribcage. I told myself, they don't have to understand. I left Lisbon the next year, suitcase rattling on uneven cobblestone, the sounds of late-night cafes and Fado laments in my ears. Everyone knew someone who knew someone in Berlin, London, Madrid, somewhere people went to try and crack big things. I wound up in Berlin, subletting a room lined with maps and empty jars, clinging to the bitter edge of possibility. Those first months, anger kept me moving. I worked nights stocking supermarket shelves, days learning to code, evenings sketching feverishly on the floor, trying to build the tools I couldn't afford. On the coldest nights, I replayed snippets of that doomed speech, wincing as if nursing a bruise. I couldn't forget the way my family spat out data artist, like it was filth or worse make-believe. Rejection became normal. I would send portfolios, tiny interactive city maps made from train schedules, surreal color storms crafted from rainfall data, and receive silence in return. Or worse, polite notes. Impressive, but not quite what our gallery is looking for. Interesting, but too technical for our festival. My anger evolved, sharpening into something more private, something that pushed me through exhaustion. Some nights I'd sit on my narrow mattress, facing the cracked paint of my window ledge, and remind myself, the stories in the numbers are real, even if no one else can see them yet. Slowly, painfully, doors opened, an inch at a time. A friend of a friend put me in touch with a tiny collective of artists, hacking together oddball software installations in Kreuzberg. They liked my tram-light patterns, the restless pulsing of data abstracted into luminous shapes. We spent weeks soldering junkyard electronics, stringing matrices of LEDs along battered scaffolding. At first, nobody came but our own friends. Still, I stood in the dim gallery light and watched my city grow on that wall. Not the Lisbon of postcards or tourist trams, but a living, breathing symphony of numbers and colors. I felt a thread pulling tight inside me. Half hope. Every new experiment was a struggle, another chance for failure. I made mistakes so public they'd haunt me for weeks. A crashing installation at a crowded opening night. A room full of flickering black screens. I wanted to scream, to run, but I stayed. I scrubbed floors after the last guests left, rewired panels, learned from everyone. For every 5 failures, there was a flicker of magic, someone staring, speechless at the storm of digital tides I'd channeled from GPS data. Their face soft and open. There was serenity there too, blooming slowly in pockets I hadn't dared to imagine. As my skills grew, so did my confidence. I became the technician others trusted, the one they called at 2 a.m. when a project threatened to collapse. The numbers stopped being an escape and became a way of anchoring myself, filling the loneliness with patterns, order, and a new kind of beauty. Recognition, when it finally arrived, was so subtle I nearly missed it. One night at a gallery, a woman in a crisp navy suit watched my piece, a swirling light map of Berlin's nighttime movement, set to a soundscape I'd coded from city traffic. "This is yours?" she asked, her accent clipped and precise. I nodded nervously. "We'll have a major conference in Geneva," she said. "They want new ways to express data, something human. Can you scale this up for a global audience?" Her card trembled in my sweating palm for a long time. Geneva, London. Madrid. My work spread pathways ahead of me. Each piece built with more confidence, each audience a little wider, less skeptical. The term data artist entered conversations with half awe, half bafflement. When galleries wrote up my installations, they called the work visionary, impossibly moving. Sometimes journalists tracked down my Portuguese relatives, chasing a juicy storyline, from mockery to mastery. The first time my mother called me, nervous. Halting, I almost dropped the phone. "They showed a picture of your project," she said, "on RTP. Your uncle said maybe that was really something." There was pride hidden in the cracks of her voice. For a moment, I let myself feel it. I even believed it. Yet I never forgot that face in the crowd at graduation. Over the years, invitations began to trickle in from home. A talk here, a lecture there. I always put them off. I told myself I was too busy. Maybe I was still angry. Or maybe I was waiting for something worthy. Then came the invitation from Lisbon's MAT, the city itself. A festival celebrating new digital art forms, set against the ghost-bright walls of my childhood, the river glittering beyond. They put it simply: would I create a public piece about Lisbon, for Lisbon? I spent weeks alone in my Berlin flat, scrolling through maps, nighttime traffic flows, weather logs dating back decades. I wanted to show them their own city, hidden, alive underneath the skin of routine. My anger was different now, cooler, less raw. It drove me, but it didn't blind me anymore. I thought about serenity, how a city never apologizes for its contradictions, the noise and the hush, the stubbornness that shaped my own family. I called my mother. "Will you come to the opening?" I asked. Silence at first, just her breathing. "Your uncle will come," she replied quietly. "The whole family, the Salgados too. They want to see you." The day of the festival was hot and humid. Lisbon was a patchwork of white stone and deep blue shadow, the river pushing salty air up the alleys. I breathed deep, pain and memory rising together. As I made my way past the tiled facades and chatter of cafe tables, home and exile merged,